Now we move on to our next story. A fierce war of words has erupted between U.S. President Donald Trump and Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell on Tuesday. Trump took to Truth Social, calling Powell a major loser and reiterating his demand for the Fed to cut interest rates. Trump argues that the economy is strong with no inflation, but claims that rate cuts would save the U.S. billions and boost economic growth. Powell, whom Trump appointed in 2018, has become a frequent target of Trump's frustration. The president believes Powell's reluctance to lower rates is hindering his economic agenda. Their strained relationship has been a growing issue, with Trump's economic approach often at odds with Powell's more cautious and centrist stance. Powell's independence is a core aspect of his role, and Trump has not been shy about criticizing that autonomy. Despite their differences, Powell's term as Fed chair runs until 2026, but Trump has hinted at firing him. The public feud has already shaken financial markets, with Trump's economic policies creating uncertainty. The clash between the two continues to have global economic implications. Now, for this discussion, we have guest joining us, Jim Rice. He's a professor of international law from Vigan, Philippines. Thank you for joining us today. Good to see you. How serious is the threat to the Federal Reserve's independence, and when a sitting president like Trump publicly insults the Fed chair and demands rate cuts, knowing that he himself appointed him?
Well, thanks very much, Asuma, for pointing that out. I mean, it's particularly ironic, I think, to everyone that it was Trump himself who appointed Jerome Powell, and during the Biden administration, Powell continued to serve as the Fed chairman. First of all, Trump lacks all legal authority to fire Chairman Powell, and so that's a non-starter. However, Trump has been determined to rule as a dictator from day one. He's basically assuming all powers to himself. And this would be very dangerous if he were to fire Powell, and indeed it would be illegal.
And now that Trump claims the economy is strong and inflation is under control, does that align with current macroeconomic data, according to you?
Now, again, I'm a person who's knowledgeable in international law, and I'm not a kind of a macroeconomic expert, but I would say that the facts on the ground would indicate otherwise. Trump's disastrous tariff policies have and will only contribute to inflation. Trump is, furthermore, what is necessary in markets, any markets at all, whether local or national or international, is certainty. That's what we were constantly taught in law school, and that's what I know to be a fact. And what Trump has done is to obliterate the concept of certainty, and he's introduced doubt and fear into the markets. And so my view is that Trump is taking America down a very dark path, and his absurdity, his vanity, will result in catastrophe if this is allowed to occur. To make matters worse, though, Trump doesn't even have knowledgeable and courageous advisors around him. He's decided to appoint nothing but craven yes men who will only agree to Trump's agenda.
You've kind of already touched down on that, but how harmful is it when monetary policy becomes a tool in a political messaging, especially in an election year? If this power struggle continues, what could be the lasting consequences?
It's fatal. I mean, it's fatal. What Trump is doing is he's taking America down the same road that you have been in Putin's Russia, Xi Jinping's China, or Kim Jong-un's North Korea. The United States is supposed to be a country that is governed by the rule of law. Trump has been degrading that since his first term. And in his second term, he's become much more virulent and dangerous in terms of his destruction of the rule of law. To make matters worse, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives and Senate have a lack of spine, have a lack of courage, and they won't stand up to Trump. So if he continues down this path, it's a recipe for economic catastrophe.
And by economic catastrophe, do you mean that could this continued Trump-Powell tensions weaken international confidence in the US dollar or federal leadership?
Absolutely right. I noticed when Trump started imposing his wildly contradictory and ridiculous tariffs at the beginning of his term, he began to pull back when he noticed that the treasuries, the federal bond market was tanking. And I think that this is the thing that Trump fears the most. But quite frankly, I don't think that Trump is fully rational. I believe he's deranged. I'm sorry to say this as an American, but I don't believe that he's a fully rational actor in this regard. And again, he's surrounded by nobody but sycophants.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor Jim Rice, for joining us and sharing your insight on the situation.